Fire Service Data and Tech Talk.
Fire Service Data and Tech Talk is powered by Esri, bringing cutting-edge GIS to fire and emergency services worldwide. Please click on our ad to learn more.
Hey everybody, it's Eddie Buchanan with the Fire Service Data and Tech Talk podcast on fire engineering, coming to you through all the social media outlets. Man, we're 1 week away from 1 month away from FDIC, right? Just around the corner. We're early March. It's time to go. We're really excited to get everybody out there to Indianapolis and get things kicked off. You know, it actually kicks off on Monday. We have hot training Monday and Tuesday. We have the main session, which is not to be missed. There's only one main session this year. It's kind of a change in the program. See what Chief Rhodes is going to do on the main program. That's something you don't want to miss. Then you got classrooms throughout from there on through the week. You got the exhibit hall opening on Thursday. We've got a bunch of different summits and kind of mini conferences going on too. So there's so much to see, so much to do. So if you haven't planned yet, I always tell people you want to make a plan. You want to have a first, second, and third choice for every time slot, because things are busy and they do fill up. And if you don't have your plan together, you might end up with like your sixth choice. So be sure to, be ready to go. And we'll see you in Indianapolis coming up in a couple, I guess a few weeks now. So I'm really excited about that. This month, last month we were talking about technology and vehicles, and I try to alternate it, kind of do a technology 1 month, do data the next month. And this month, it's really cool because we're, also coming up later this month, we have the CPSC Excellence Conference. It's going to be down in Orlando, Florida. Been there many, many, many times. Had the honor to speak there a few times. It's a conference you don't want to miss. So I thought it would be appropriate. Hey, let's talk about accreditation and data and some of the things that are important. Specifically, I always want to talk about it related to the field. What is operations? What's your perspective on data and accreditation? Why should that be important to you? And I was lucky to wrangle in some experts on the topic. I've got Jim White and Chief Rick Potter. So let's go around the horn, guys. Thanks for being here. And Chief Potter, why don't you give us a quick intro on your background and how you're affiliated with the accreditation process, and just where you come from.
Sure. My name is Rick Potter. I'm the fire chief currently in the city of Shawnee, Kansas. I have been here coming up on 6 years. Prior to that, I did 30 years for the city of Pueblo, Colorado, retired from there as the deputy fire chief. I've been involved in accreditation for going on probably 15 to 20 years now, and currently serve as vice chair of the commission. So in previous years, I was also a team lead and would travel around the country assessing departments. And so looking through this process has given me the opportunity to study data and how it really incorporates into the day-to-day life of not only fire administration, but our operations personnel as well.
Outstanding. Well, thank you for taking the time to be on the show. I really do appreciate it, Chief.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And Jim, welcome to the show, man. Tell us about your background.
Thanks, Eddie. Thanks for having us. My name is Jim White. I'm currently the program manager for the Commission on Fire Accreditation International and the Center for Public Safety Excellence. Been in this seat about 3 years now, but I spent my career started out in your neck of the woods in Virginia, up there and inside the Beltway at Arlington as a volunteer, and then went down to South Carolina for a couple of years. But a majority of my time was in Winter Park, Florida, right outside Orlando here, and was the fire chief there for 18 years, altogether about 28 years with Winter Park, and started my accreditation work back in, the late 90s, where we learned a lot about data and what we didn't know about how we were performing, and what that could do for us as an agency to be able to solidify our positions in the community with staffing, station locations, amount of apparatus, and effectiveness, and trying to find a way to measure how well we were working or not. Then I began working with CFAI as a peer assessor, much as Rick did. We have hundreds of volunteer peer assessors around the country that do fantastic work for us, and I did that for a number of years. Taught their classes, taught at Emmitsburg for the Standard of Cover class, and was involved with the writing of many of the editions of the Fire and Emergency Services self-assessment model that we currently use to help agencies self-assess and measure themselves.
Outstanding. And thanks again for taking the time to come on, man. It's really, I'm thrilled to have, I mean, you can't get better expertise, on what the accreditation process is, unless I brought Preet in here. But, it's
There you go. Exactly.
This is great operational experience. I am curious, though, like you mentioned, there's CPSE, right? The Center for Public Safety Excellence, and there's CFAI, and then there's, how does this thing work? I'll tell you why I asked. The first time I ever heard about accreditation, it was probably in the 90s or something, somewhere in there. And I remember the comment was, well, who are these people that say what's the right way to do it? That was literally the comment when it was first presented. So give folks like a kind of 30,000 foot view of how this thing's put together.
Yeah, I always tell people it's a for us and by us system. It was built by firefighters for firefighters. So that should hit home with a lot of you, that it isn't, we're not just this group of people that has decided this is what we should be looking at. We take, just for instance, this last edition that we built that's coming out, the 11th edition beginning next year, hundreds of volunteers from around the country that were part of the development of that. But there's no mystery to this stuff that has been developed in the fire service. I think it was probably developed on a napkin somewhere at an adult beverage was involved, and these guys said, "Hey, we got to figure out a way to let our city and our county managers believe us when we tell them we need people, and we tell them we can only be this good, or we can only do this many things. Why do we need staffing that we have? Why do we need units where we have them? Why do we need the equipment we have them? So let's learn from what others have done, law enforcement, hospitals, schools. Let's get an accreditation process." So that's where it got developed. And there were, Chief Ronnie Coleman, many, many years ago, was one of the ones that really kind of laid the foundational work for the process. And a lot of others that contributed through the IFC and other participation, from other groups, the ICMA, and said, this is what really matters. Why don't you measure these things? Heck, back then, departments didn't even know how they were founded. They might have heard about it, but they didn't have the documentation. They didn't know where their financial support always came from. They didn't know how everything was done, and all the documents that a chief comes in and tries to lay their hands on things. How do we even do this? How does this department even work? Accreditation is about credibility, and the self-assessment model that has grown out of those original conversations led to a model that an agency can take, measure their performance, measure all those things that mean something, and then come out of it with a label of credibility for what they do. So it's not anything that, an umbrella organization, which we can go through all that structure, but CPSC basically is that umbrella organization that covers both the Commission on Fire Accreditation and the Commission on Professional Credentialing, and serves our educational purposes as well. So our board of directors is guided again by a lot of people within the fire service, and our board, our Commission on Fire Accreditation, 13 people that, fire chiefs, NFPA, ISO, ICMA, labor, IAFF. We have 3 labor positions that represent not only IAFF, but 2 labor presidents from accredited departments on the commission, which, years ago was kind of unheard of. But we have that kind of broad brush that really looks at agencies' reports and looks at the peer review process and says, these guys are doing it in a credible way. So it really is a for us and by us type of system.
Amazing. And Chief Potter, like you mentioned, so there's the accreditation of fire departments, and then there is kind of in another lane, the credentialing of individuals, right? Of particular ranks and functions. Like, Chief Potter, tell me what that's about. Like, what is it? Why is it? What's the value of it?
So One is beneficial to the community, beneficial to the agency, the department, and our operations personnel as well, through the accreditation model. The professional credentialing model and the Commission on Professional Credentialing really is addressed and focuses on the individuals themselves. So being able to go through the process, have a peer reviewer look at your resume, look at your training, looking at your contributions to the fire service, and then recommending a credential for your work that you have done, whether it's a chief fire officer, a chief EMS officer, a chief training officer, a fire marshal. Most recently, our fire and emergency services analyst. So even helping work through that, maybe our non-sworn personnel that work through there, and just a year or so ago, our public information officer. So it's taking all facets, all aspects of what we do as an organization and providing a means and a mechanism for professional credentialing, for a recognition for work that has been accomplished, their experience and their education.
So it never dawned on me till you guys just said it, but credentials and credibility, it's the same root word, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Duh.
Yeah.
Right. But it's sitting right there. And the thing that came to mind was, I know a lot of fire departments struggle with being kind of a political ping pong ball, right? When the budget gets tight or things get difficult in local government, the easiest thing to do is see what we're an expensive service. So you can make big cuts, when you can say influence an apparatus program or staffing a particular unit or something like that, without some way to articulate performance and value. You're at the political wins, I guess, right? What do you think, Jim?
Yeah, you are. And I'll take you back on a little bit of a journey when I was first introduced to the process. And I said, because there's kind of three key components to the agency accreditation model. There's the model itself, which are all the performance indicators that the agencies answer to, but there's a risk assessment and standard of cover. And then there's a community-driven strategic plan. So just start with the risk assessment. We tell agencies, listen, you got to know what you're up against. And for many, many years, agencies, I don't want to say we're flying blind, but everybody thought they had every risk in their community. And, hey, anything can happen. So we have to have a fully blown out hazmat team, or we have to have a fully developed tech rescue team. And we've never even gone to see if we have those risks in our community. We've never measured those to see if we can respond to them with what we have. We've never measured us against an NFPA standard. We've never done anything like that. So the model forces you to go out and really put a method to the madness, put a method to measuring risk, and then put a method to your standards of cover. We like to tell agencies, listen, this is almost like a contract between you and the community to say, listen, we've measured the risks that we have in a systematic way that's credible. We've measured our performance. We've created some baseline response time measurements that we can actually tell you, hey, it takes us 3 minutes maybe to get the call from 911, and then maybe another minute and a half to get out of the house. And then our drive time, which is everything that we've been basing everything on for years, is really not 4 minutes. It's more like 6.5 or 7 minutes. But you know what? We do that 90% of the time. We don't do an average. We never measure things in this process as an average. We always measure it in the 90th percent. So it's a majority of what we do. But then after you figure out then you got to go to the community and you got to say, strategically, what do you want your fire department to be like? We get feedback directly. They have to get feedback from the community themselves. And then their internal stakeholders take that information and develop goals and objectives for the future. So when you say, man, we need these things, but we don't know how to get them. The community's saying we need them, but we don't know where to go with getting them. This forces you to do that. And whether you do it internally or whether you hire a facilitator or get somebody to help you do that, it forces a fire department to kind of get uncomfortable for a little bit, to be able to say, hey, this is what we really need. And then as you answer all those performance indicators, gosh, you're able to use those two really key documents to say, this is who we are. This is what our department is facing as a risk throughout the community. Are we all residential? Are we all commercial? Are we a mix? hey, what kind of residential do we have? What's the setbacks on those? What kind of codes do we have? What kind of code enforcement do we have? What kind of firefighter health and safety programs do we have? All that fits into those performance measurements. And it really does speak a lot to the community. It speaks a lot to the agency, to the leadership team, and to the community to say, hey, you're giving me X millions of dollars a year to run this fire department. This is the service that you're going to get. And this is what you can expect. And if I need this many people to put on the scene to be able to do that, the outcome is going to improve. If I can put 21 people on the scene versus 15 people on the scene, the outcome of those events are going to be positive. They're going to be better than they are today. So it allows you to really connect your data with your performance. And I didn't see that, 25, 30 years ago. It was like, hey, you just go and you do the best you can with what you have. And that's, we can't do that anymore and expect people to keep just giving us more and more funding, more people. We got to be able to say, there's a method to our madness. We've got to measure our risk. We've got to measure our current performance. Oh, and then by the way, if we had more people, this is the outcome you could expect, that it could improve.
One of the things I've heard fire chiefs say, fire departments, maybe they don't believe they're evolved enough, right? Like, man, we would be accredited, but we're just not there yet. I've heard that before. Have not grown to a place where we would even be ready to entertain the process. Like Chief Potter, what advice do you have for them? Is it true that you have to wait until you reach a certain organizational maturity and capability, or can you just start from wherever you are?
Yeah, and that was one of the things I was going to stress. Great question, Eddie. It's one of the things I was going to stress from what Jim was talking about. This is about really being at the local level and that being back to each specific community. And so, yes, it's a formalized process, but what level you attain to, what you're trying to provide, the services, the risk, all of that is to each individual community. We have one of our agencies, which I was fortunate enough to go on a team lead on, not team lead, but as part of a peer team, was a volunteer agency. So it's an agency. So a lot of times we think it needs to be a career, needs to be this, but it can be. We have agencies that are volunteer. We have agencies that are combination. We have fire protection districts. We have fire territories. We have not-for-profit private organizations that are an agency. So it really kind of goes to and is a modular setup that can be used for any community, and it puts the decision-making and the provision of those services back into the hands of the governing bodies, those organizations that lead, and really helps it so where they build it for their community itself.
I hadn't thought about volunteer departments already being in the accreditation process. So that says a lot right there. You're not being compared to some arbitrary standard. You're being compared to community risk and community need. Is that fair?
Absolutely.
Saying that right, Jim?
Yeah, we're not a standards-based process. And I think that's probably one of the more important things to point out. And people will go, okay, well, then what do you base that on? If it's not, well, it's what you base it on. We always say to our peer assessors, it's when you go on a site visit, it's not how you did it back at your department. It's how they're doing it. And you're verifying and validating what this agency has said they're doing. If they have 4-person staffing on their units, then we're going to verify and validate that they have 4-person staffing. If they have 3, if they have 5, whatever it is. And Chief Potter's absolutely right. There's one model for everybody. We don't have, we have over 100 Department of Defense fire departments that are part of this. We don't have a separate model for them. I have industrial departments in Saudi Arabia that are part of this. I don't have a separate model for that. And I have what I call mega metros or, big departments in the States. It's the same. It's exactly the same model. Now, are there portions that if you do ALS patient transport service, your one service fire department, there's more things you fill out, but it's the same exact model. It is absolutely one model for everybody. And I think that's one of the cool things about it is, hey, that department can say, we walk the same walk as that department everybody looks up to, and or our neighbors. And we find that happening around the country anyway, that it is geographically driven. We're pretty competitive people. And if so-and-so does it, then the neighbor has to do it, or hey, if they did it, we can do it. But it really is, you can jump on at any point in time. We have a stair-stepped process that brings you in at a registered agency level for up to 3 years. And then you can just keep renewing that if you want to. We just accredited somebody that had been registered for 12 years. And they get to walk it very, very easily at their pace. And then once they get to the point where they're ready for a peer review and site visit and come before Chief Potter and his fellow commissioners, then they'll seek accredited status.
So I'm an old budget guy. So what should I do? Like, how would I, if I was looking at this thinking, okay, well, maybe the next, 3 to 5 years, I want to go and try to achieve accreditation. What kind of financial advice? I mean, I realize every fire department is going to be different. But what would be a way to have some kind of common strategy of how to approach that?
Our base, like I mentioned, walking into it is like $700. It's very easy to get registered. You can do it online, and that at least gets you part of the, get you in the door. So it gets you to learn everything. It gets you to learn who your partners are around the country. We have a nationwide coverage of consortiums of like-minded agencies that share, and anybody can be a part of those. They don't even necessarily need to be registered. But from a budget perspective, we hear that the more successful agencies are able to dedicate somebody to do it. And that's usually where the biggest lift is. Sure, can a uniformed person that's on shift be their accreditation manager and do this job? Yep, absolutely did it in my department for many years. But the processes in the agencies have become very complex between GIS and data management and your RMS systems, your CAD, all those things. Somebody's got to coordinate all that. And whether you have a civilian, as Chief Potter mentioned, our analyst credential is now available. In many agencies around the country, we support their analysts and the work that they do. So from a dollar perspective, that's probably the biggest lift. But from accreditation perspective, the largest piece of that is every 5 years when you host your site team. And we have an amount, depending on where they are in the country, that we share with the agency to go, well, this is what you can pretty much expect. And it's anywhere from $7,000 to $10,000 every 5 years. And then after you're accredited, we take that and divide it, those fees up for being accredited. So you're not paying that big amount again, unless you are, when you come around to your 5th year to host your team. So on an average, agencies are paying anywhere from, between $1,000 to $3,000 a year to maintain their accredited status with us. And that gets you everything that you need to do it. So from a cost perspective, I don't know that there's any, I know there's not, there's nothing else out there that is as current as our model is, as engaged as our model is, as connected to the industry as our model is. I mean, it really does look at every aspect of what you do. And I talk to chiefs every day around the country. Hey, why should I do this? Same question, you asked, but on the money perspective. I said, let me tell you, when I was a fire chief, it helped me put my head on the bed and go to sleep, because I knew that I was at least covering all my bases. This process forced me to look at things that I would have never looked at ever, because it didn't matter. It didn't come around. I was 18 years as the Five Bugle chief. And I go, even in that period of time, I don't know that I would have covered everything that this model forced me to look at. And the cost then, I don't want to say it's something you didn't even look at, but yeah, I mean, you have to stay current. Your people have to be trained on how to work the model. And they have to be, like I said, the person that does it in your agency is probably the heaviest lift, however you want to do that.
It sounds like detailing somebody's it's not a financial impact so much as it is, you got to break somebody off for that assignment, Well,
you got to stress too that it's not a project. It's not a project.
Right.
Chief Potter, it's a process. Yeah.
Yeah. So what I was going to do is just jump in and talk about how one of the things that we try to talk through about, how do you institutionalize it? How do you make it a part of everything you do? And really the most successful organizations, I think, are the ones that incorporate it into all the things they're doing day to day anyway. So it's not an additional thing strapped on top. It's incorporating it to the business that you do every day that we're all doing as departments, as agencies anyway. So I think incorporating that into it is one of the huge benefits. Yes, it's nice if you have staff. I feel very fortunate that I have a full-time analyst in my department, but my previous experience, it wasn't. And there were a couple of us that did all of that work. So I think it can be one of those things that can work. The other thing on the budget, I would say real quick, is this might be a way for an agency to get things that may be bringing in some other form of consultant might be cost prohibitive where they couldn't do that. I'm not saying that those don't have value, please. That's not, it's just sometimes the cost, maybe that's cost prohibitive of some of those. And this, because of the phased approach and be able to work into it, it's something that you can work into that and start working on those, start leaning on those consortiums and find it in a budgetary manner that I think it's a lot more manageable.
And you know, the community in the accreditation world is really, really supportive. I've noticed, like, you know, there's always somebody willing to help you because they've been through that same pain, and you know, they'll share what they've learned. And I should mention, you know, we're sponsored by Esri. This show is sponsored by Esri, and they actually have a accreditation solution that you can, if you're an Esri user, which most fire departments have access to it. You may not know it, but you probably do. You can deploy that solution and get through a lot of the heavy lift related to the GIS components and some of the data structuring, and that it will just do it for you. So, you know, you can hit us up later for more information on how to get connected to that. So I think there's plenty of support. I'd be curious, have you ever run across a fire department that was where the local government wasn't supportive? Like, you know, we're assuming that the local government is going to be like, yeah, man, go get accredited. That'd be great. We'd like to see you be more data informed and all that. But I've, you know, just in my own travels over the years, have you ever encountered where somebody didn't want to know? Like they'd rather have it. They don't want that kind of clarity. Have you ever run up against that?
Yeah. And I'll tell you where it's come up with the data and what you were referring to. There has been, I remember having a conversation, I won't say where they were from, but I was having a conversation with the chief and he goes, I can't do this. I'm trying, but I can't do it. I goes, why? I said, well, what's holding you back? He goes, because I've been here 30 years and I've spent my entire career telling my elected officials in my community that I have a 4-minute response time. And now I don't. And I said, what do you mean you don't? He goes, well, that was the average. And I didn't even know I didn't even have anything to back that up. I said, oh, okay. So now I said, well, you know, you're taking, with the way you're going to look at it through this process, you're taking a deeper dive. You're telling the community what you do more often. And it's not 4 minutes. Maybe it's 6 minutes and, 50 seconds. Maybe it's 8 minutes. But you're telling them what you're doing 90% of the time, not 50% or the average amount of the calls you're going on. 4 minutes sounds good. He goes, but I sound terrible. I sound like I've been telling them a story all along. I said, no. I said, we've got some script to help you out with that because it comes up a lot. And it not as much as it used to, because everybody has moved to a little bit more data driven. That, between NFPA and other, that 90% has really become something that people look at as a performance measurement. But yeah, there's some that are like, we're not going to, I can't do that. Or we have had some that have come and walked the walk with us for a while and then said, yeah, you know what? I don't need this anymore. I can do it myself. So that's the other thing. And then you go, well, you lose the third party validation. You lose the continuous improvement model. You lose the community. You lose there's a lot that goes with that. So I don't know that and some of them haven't been as successful since they dropped out. So it's not, I always tell people, it's not the cost. It's the commitment. It's the moving towards a model that will help you do just about anything and everything. And there's people there that are there to help you, that don't cost you anything. The consortiums, the friends you make, the associates you make in different aspects of the industry, chiefs would have never, they're not going to find that in other organizations. But you said you've attended the Excellence Conference. There's a lot of like-minded people there that, wow, if you just come in and open your mind a little bit, you'd be amazed at how much that people are there to help you. And you go, hey, I had that problem. And you go, you don't even have to say anything. You just listen and you go, yeah, that's how I'm going to try to fix this.
But, it's one of the things, I guess, you mentioned being able to put a chief's head on the pillow at night and sleep, I used to call them love notes, right? Like you're writing a love note to yourself later when there is a deficiency, say things the service level, the staffing isn't what you want it to be, at least by having some third party, input on that. It's not that you were negligent, right? If something awful does happen, it's not that you were negligent. It's that you were doing the best with the resources that you have. I mean, Chief, how does that, do you see that, Chief Potter, see that as since you're still wearing the spaghetti catcher, I call it. You still got the white shirt on.
Yeah.
That's nice. Every time I know. Yep, just jumps on there. What's your opinion being on duty, still being in there, and how do you look at that third party input to help you feel good about service level?
Yeah. So one of the things, and we talk about it in our own staff, is we want to know where our blind spots are, and we want to see what other people see that we don't see. So many times we're caught up in the day-to-day, we're caught up in our own struggles, issues, and those. And so really it's the benefit of somebody coming in who just wants to give of their expertise, give of their time and their experience to help look at ways in a different view, in a different way than maybe we've looked at it, and look at helping we all care about the communities we serve. So whether it's somebody coming in here to Shawnee or those of us in our peer teams going into other communities across the U.S. and even globally, it's really, at the end of the day, it's about ways of making the service we provide to our residents, to our citizens, and doing that better. And that's the passion that everybody walks in with. So it really helps everybody put the egos aside and really look at it. And that's what I hope when somebody comes in here is, tell me the hard things. Don't just tell me what you think I want to hear. Tell me the things that I need to hear, and show me the areas where I have those blind spots so that I can communicate that responsibly with my bosses and with the governing body and go, look, here's the areas that we need improvement. Much of it we know, but there are times where we come across things that we don't know. And I think that's the refreshing part for me.
I think as we evolve, right? Like how have you seen technology impact the accreditation process over the last 5 years? Because it's evolving quickly, right? Are you seeing, are things getting easier, more complex? Like how do you measure the accreditation process and put that together with the tools that we have at our disposal now that maybe we didn't have, say, 5-10 years ago? You seen an evolution?
Jim, if you don't mind if I jump in.
Yeah,
here.
Go right ahead.
That's one of the things, is looking at the data, is seeing all the things that maybe we didn't see before, understanding the things that we didn't know. So being able to analyze that and look for trends, hotspots, it's really making us better in looking at, do we need to add stations? Do we need to add personnel? Do we need to move some around? And it's making more of those decisions that are factual based. And I say that very carefully, not based off of a gut feeling. It's bolstered by a gut feeling, but really looking at, what does the data say? Not just what are you trying to make the data say? No, what does it really say? When you're looking at it and looking at those areas, really trying to put that together. So the tools, visual tools, sometimes a visual depiction is much more than if you're looking at a table and a set of just raw data. Being able to do the analysis in that format, sometimes there are things that pop up that you learn that you go, wow, okay, I didn't know we could do that. We're walking through that right now as we speak here in Shawnee and talking about some of the changes we're making. And that's the exciting piece, is that we have access, we're involved in making some of those decisions and being able to communicate that to those that make the decision above us, our city managers or district presidents or mayors or whatever their title might be in the governing body, is being able to provide good options for them so they can make a data-driven decision on our behalf.
Absolutely. Jim, what do you think? You got
Yeah, I mean, I could look at it from kind of two perspectives. One from the fire chief perspective. I used to always tell my elected officials, I'm trying to help you get away from making an emotional decision, because it's very easy for us. We can walk in there and just be, everything bad's going to happen if you don't give me this. And that doesn't fly anymore. I mean, there's too much information. You talked about what data is out there. It's available. My gosh, it's available to the general public if they try hard enough. So yeah, that has helped us in a lot of ways. I mean, you mentioned Esri, and we'd love their help and do what they do. But you know what? They love the fire service because we generate numbers, we generate data, we generate events and travel and all those kind of things that make what they provide back to us so valuable. But you have to look at it in a way that can benefit you. And you go and just be honest about it. Things are, what are we always stuck in tradition? Well, sometimes those things are telling us something that we're just not listening to. And I just think about the times that this process, I've really seen it be beneficial to departments. When chiefs say, hey, you were here a couple of years ago and you were our team leader, you were a peer assessor, and your report helped us decide to move truck 1 from station 1 to station 3. That might seem simple to you, but that has made us so more efficient. We knew we needed to do it, as Chief Potter was saying, but sometimes we needed that nudge of data, and we needed maybe somebody else to come in and not necessarily agree with us, but sit back and listen to their opinions about it. Because in any one particular site visit, you're going to get 4 or 5 professionals from an accredited departments around the country that are going to come in and look at your organization the same way they looked at theirs and the model, versus measuring it against the model. And if they verify and validate that you've looked at it that way, and you go, well, you know what, we're thinking about doing this. How does that work within the model? You go, wow, that's going to look like it's going to improve things for you. But the technology that's out there today, are there things that we still struggle with? Yeah, I mean, alarm handling time and just alarms that get handled by dispatch centers that are not under the auspices of the fire department or under the control of the fire chief. Boy, departments go, we never even knew it took us 3 to 5 minutes to get the call. And we'll go, yeah, now you know. We never knew it took 2 minutes to get out of the station. And oh, by the way, we built a brand new station and we thought it was a Taj Mahal, and wow, it is. It's huge. And you can't walk from one end of the building in 60 seconds. How do you expect your peeps to get out of the building in 60 seconds? So yeah, and those things continue to be challenging for us, or for the agencies, but we give them that constant stick of measuring, hey, this is keep moving in this direction. And eventually those things will show you a benefit or show you a gap that you need to try to fix.
How is things like artificial intelligence, how is that getting into the mix? Like, I'm sure that's got to be running on your radar by now. How are you seeing that? What do you even do with that?
I'll let the commissioner speak to that. We actually already have a policy in place for dealing with that with agencies. So, but from an agency perspective, yeah, it's definitely out there.
Chief, what's y'all's the official position, and then how do you see it? I'm more curious as to how you see it hitting the mix here.
So part of it is the interest of making sure that work is still original, that it's people's work that they're writing. I think that's one of the things that we want to make sure, that it's not just taking another community. We go back to the statement about it is very local. Accreditation is a very local thing, and it's your community, it's your risk. So making sure it's not writing about another community or written something like that. So there's a concern there. Are there definitely tools that are coming about that AI can help process, analytics, and do? There are definitely some things like that there's no doubt can help communities process the amount of data and information that we're going through. So we're moving through, as Jim mentioned, we know it's something we're addressing, and that's kind of how we're proceeding through the process. So I don't know if, Jim, you want to add on to that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So, the bottom line, Eddie, is the way that we look at it is it's still got to be your work. So if you use a tool to be able to generate that work, it can't be, hey, here's 5 agencies' documents, write me one that smells like me. That's not going to work. It's got to be your work. But I would also add the neat thing that we're doing at the CPSE level is that we're creating some of those tools internally for our people to use, for our peer assessors to use, for our agencies to be able to benefit from, that are just, I mean, literally within the last several days had meetings about the where we're at with this, and our technical working group that's working on our AI products is just going to be awesome. And I think that it's going to help everybody kind of see things the same way. Hopefully, we've got a pretty big database of good stuff, of agencies that do things the right way. And hopefully at some point in time, we'll be able to share a lot of that data and information and through those AI tools that we're going to use internally to be able to benefit our agencies and benefit our peer assessors that do the work for us. Yeah,
I think there are ways to use it in a very lazy way, that is a true thing. Oh, yeah. But what I've seen the smart agencies do, the people that really understand it at my day job, for example, it is a tremendous force multiplier, right? We're able to move much faster than otherwise. So, hopefully, I'm sure there'll continue to be people that'll do silly things, but if you come at it the right way and really leverage it as that, really amplify what you're capable of doing, that's where the sweet spot seems to be. And the analytics, I've seen folks throw just a big old bucket of data in there and, get the AI to make sense of it for you. You can do some things that otherwise couldn't have been done before.
Yep.
Then, of course, we've got, when this is airing, I think NERIS is kind of standing on its feet at this point, right? Yeah. What I think is interesting about that is everybody is talking about that platform right now as an inbound data. You're inbound with the data to NERIS. And I think once they give them a little bit of time, and there'll be an outbound flow of data. And that's where it's going to get really, I'm excited to see when the outbound starts, what can we draw from that? Because they're taking the base data we're used to working with and layering other things on it that might be quite useful, particularly like risk assessment and some of the things that are at the core of accreditation. So
yeah, absolutely. If I could give a shout out to Tom Jenkins and his team that's built all of that and shared it with the industry. I mean, we were at the very beginning with them on that, and they asked and we offered and hey, how would we best do this? We set specific documents out that matched what NERIS was exporting, as you mentioned, and how does that affect accredited departments? So our speak is the same going forward. I'm excited about it. I share with you that, wow, I can't wait for agencies to be able to say, this came out of, we're putting this in, we're getting this out. And that's really helping us. And not to speak about what, as Tom referred to it, the legacy system before. But I mentioned earlier when I was teaching at Emmitsburg, we taught a lot about the legacy system and data, and agencies were shocked. They go, yeah, we send our data in. And when you showed them, even then, what they could have gotten out of the old system, wow, I never knew that. And I can imagine now when they see, data charts and mapping and analytics that, yes, I agree 110%. It's going to be pretty awesome. What they're going to be able, and even, you mentioned at the very beginning about the basic, how does this help the firefighter? How does this help the company officer? How does this help the incident commander? They're the ones generating the data, guys and gals. They're the ones doing it. So the more accurate that is, the better off everybody's going to be. We always tell people, the chief will come in and go, hey, we need to improve our turnout times. And it only takes one meal at the table to go, okay, you push the button, you run to the truck and hit responding, you key the mic and say we're going. You're not helping anybody. I mean, it's not helping anybody, but you got to get the whole response time in there. So from the time you go to the time you arrive, and it's those things are going to go away. You know, the being able to watch vehicles and watch movements. We already see departments that do a great job with that. So when you talk about the impact on firefighters and the impact on how many people can we put on the scene at a particular type of incident in that amount of time, they have the skills and the training and the equipment to be able to make a difference. That's what it's all about. That's what all of that is about. And we're going to be able to do a much, much better job every day when some new piece of that is returned to the departments for them to make better decisions.
Chief Potter, I'd be curious to see your thought. To me, this seems like a historic transition, right? I don't think people get it. Like, what's your take? Like this, I don't recall anything like this ever happening. Since Infers was first rolled out, I don't remember anything like this. I don't know, Chief, what do you think?
Yeah, I think as Jim talked about, it's how we can use it in the future. You look at over the years, we've gone from an organization, an industry, maybe is better stated, very reactive to more proactive and looking at and being able to focus on outcomes. So it's not just being able to look at data, for instance, but now specifically talking about NERIS and combining the layers and all of that, being able to better identify the potential of what are the outcomes related to certain things and how can then we focus on changing those. Because as I stated before, and it's something I'm very passionate about, is we're here to take care of our residents. How do we make it better for them? They're the ones that feel the outcomes. And so what is that and how can we change those? And this is going to be game changer in how we can start focusing on some of those things and truly improve the outcomes in the future.
You know, the fire service talks a lot, particularly on social media, about them. You know, we're here for them. The best thing we can do for them is to really do what things you're talking about. Capture real data so it really improves the service to get us to that front porch just a little bit quicker. That's probably the best thing we can do from a data perspective when it comes to them. So I think it's, very tactical to me. And not only once we expand, if you looked at the data set we're used to working with, you would think we were a NASCAR team, like we're how to go fast, I'm very interested to see as the data expands past the air brake and we start to have discussions about water on fire, primaries complete, some tactical objectives, start to capture some of that data. And then seeing the other equipment we're carrying start to come into a common data set as well, SCBA data, firefighter tracking, location. 5-10 years from now, it's going to be a completely different world, So I'm just thrilled to be here at this point.
And Eddie, if go ahead,
Chief.
I was just going to say, if I can build onto that and taking that a little bit further and then identifying trends or things that we're doing that are changing those outcomes, both in a positive and a negative sense, in order to make improvements. And having that data set to be able to do it that maybe we don't right now. So.
Yeah, Eddie, you mentioned the Excellence Conference. I'll put a shameless plug in for that. But one of the things that we'll be talking about over the week with everybody is, and we have some specific programs on that, is trying to determine. And you just mentioned it. What do we look like? What does effective look like? We say we're responding an effective response force of firefighters, for instance. We're, if we use NFPA or if we use our own, effective response force data that we've put together from our tools and equipment that we've put together, we go, oh, we're going to put 17 people on the scene. And we say that's our effective response force. What does effective mean in your world, in your department? Does that mean stopping it at the area of involvement on arrival? Did your first alarm assignment, were they successful? Because that's why you sent them, right? I mean, you said there was enough based on what you knew when you got the call. So yeah, you're right. Wow. When this expands and we're able to put a data analysis into effective, you're right. That's going to change the world because we'll be able to say, yeah, 3's effective with this, 4's effective to do this, and 5, it gets you effectiveness with this. So how much more do I have to pay in equipment, staffing, personnel to be more effective? And if we can come up with a matrix for that, as we did years ago with response times and turnout times and all that, wow, that's just next level stuff. And we're not far away from that at all.
I remember Dr. Lori Moore Merrill did that with the IFF some decades ago. You know, she got as close as she could get with the information at the time.
Absolutely.
And now we'll be able to get very realistic with near real time data. Should be pretty enlightening. We don't know what we don't know yet.
Right.
Well, I'm going to have T-shirts made that say "optimize on outcome." Somebody.
I love it. That's awesome.
But
go right ahead. That's awesome.
That would be something.
We're all about outcomes.
Makes my propeller twirl up here.
There you go. That's all. We're all about outcomes. That's what it is, right? It's all about.
Absolutely.
I mean, if you get there, you look good. You got apparatus everywhere. You got firefighters everywhere, maybe, and but what's the outcome?
Yeah.
Were they effective? And that's that nebulous that we're trying to fill in to go, what is effective? How do we measure that?
Absolutely. What would you say, because we're kind of getting towards the time here, what would you say is the most problematic, overlooked things that as they start to look at their site visit, folks should really be paying attention to? What's the data point to what's the low-hanging fruit that people wish they knew before? Either of your, kind of both of your advice. Like what's that one thing you would tell somebody, man, my site visit's coming up soon. I've never seen fire chief sweat so hard as in the hallway outside of that hearing. I mean,
well, that's definitely the first thing you would tell them is stop sweating.
Yeah.
You're amongst friends. Right. Seriously. I mean, I've told them many times to do that. But low hanging fruit wise, I mean, be yourselves. I mean, you're not going to help anybody by not telling the full story, not telling everything there is about your organization. I always tell people in the classes, listen, I don't want to hear about the Camelot Fire Department. It ain't perfect. I want to hear exactly what you're doing. And if you say you're doing that, and we're just going to come in to make sure that you're doing that, that's the baseline you work from. So be yourselves. I mean, just be firefighters. I mean, we get it. We've seen, it's not like I said, it's for us and by us. We've been this walk before. We've been that chief that sat there and, sweated or whatever. But yeah, just be yourselves. And that's the best place to start. You're not going to fix anything by not being yourself. It's really not. You got to get it right. You got to get the baseline right first.
Chief Potter, what do you think? They're coming in there. What advice would you send to them before they get on the site?
I could not agree more than with what Jim just said. Is we're their peers, their peer assessors, their peer teams, their peers, and their peers for a reason. They all come from accredited agencies. They've gone through the same process. They get it. We're really not trying to just put that best foot forward and cover stuff up, clean things extra special, do all that. Who are you? Who are you as an organization? And let the peer team provide opportunities and recommendations to help make it better and make your community and kind of how you provide services to the community. So yeah, if you're covering stuff up, then it doesn't allow the team to get a really good look on things. Not that people would be covering stuff up, but be as open and transparent as you can. And really, like Jim said, don't sweat it. I mean, we all go through, we all know what it's like to be there and have gone through that process. And we're all, like I said before, we're all passionate about just making things better.
And I think I don't want to leave without pointing out the educational opportunities that are available through the CPSC, and like just going on the website, they got the university. Give us that's how I first got involved. Like, many decades ago, the fire chief kind of said, maybe we want to look at this accreditation thing. So the first thing I did was went and took a class somewhere.
Right.
And that was my first, like, okay, this is a lot cooler than I thought it was. It was very informative, very educational. Give us like a broad scope, Jim, of what's out there, what resources exist.
Yeah, it's actually one of our pillars of what we are with the CPSC is our educational opportunities. So even if you're not in the end of the day seeking accreditation, or maybe you're not ready to be a peer assessor and you're from an accredited department, wow, the information that's available on, as you mentioned, CPSC University, off our website, all free, all available. It's on there. It's from, again, people that have walked the walk. They're doing it now. We have literally videos on every one of the categories that you have to respond to. We have a video on how to write the stuff, a video on strategic planning, and it's not anything that's overwhelming. It's available. It's something that will help anybody that's involved with the process. You may be a chief in a department, deputy chief, an assistant chief, battalion chief down the line, and you just all of a sudden now, oh, wait a minute, we got our site visit coming next year. I need to get up to speed on what this is all about. Go watch those. Go close your door in your office and watch some of those videos, and it will give you an opportunity to see what the model is really all about. Of course, and then we have our structured, classes that are required for your agency accreditation manager. The quality improvement 3-day class, in-person class is awesome. I call it, Accreditation 101. Basically, it gives you everything from soup to nuts through the process. And then we just last year changed our peer assessor workshop to a month-long. You take it as you see fit. Every quarter we offer it. It's all virtual. They come on and they act like peer assessors. They review documents. They listen to segments about the instruction. They take a test. They write actually in the reports that they would generate as a peer assessor. And I know Chief Potter will agree with me. We've all had long careers. Being a peer assessor is probably one of the highlights of our. We hear it all the time. When you get to go visit another department, I would have never gotten to go visit some of the places we've been to. And I'm not talking about as a tourist. I'm talking about if you're a fire person and you just like doing this and you love the fire service, wow. This is a way for you to get involved at a level you probably never thought was possible, and be able to help that department. It's awesome. So the peer assessor workshop, pretty structured, again, on your own terms. The 3-day class required for our peer assessors, but obviously we love to see chiefs in there. We love to see other people that are on the accreditation teams for an agency. We'd love to have people host it. That's how we operate that class at locations where an accredited agency or not, doesn't matter who they are, they can offer up to host that class and get their people engaged in it. And then, like you said, the university site is just, I always told them when I told Preet when I came to work, it was probably one of the things I missed as a chief was I didn't pay enough attention to that, to the university site and what was being offered on there. And guilty as charged. I mean, life goes by. You go, wow, man, we got some stuff on there that's like very beneficial. And it would have helped me out, in a number of situations. So it was free. I mean, go take a look at it. And again, for us and by us, we're just really all about trying to get agencies and individuals to be better through credentialing and through accreditation.
CPSC.org. It's right there. Just go look at it. One thing I've heard all the peer assessors, they tend to say the most, I think, is they learn so much in the process, right? So you're there to evaluate, but you're going to learn something every time, I think, right? Every time you go somewhere, you're going to come up with something you had thought of. So, very valuable program. But Chief Potter, Chief White, I really appreciate y'all taking the time to come on the show and explain a little bit about how the accreditation program works. I think, we're in for a boom, man, between the technology and the data and really kind of formalizing how the fire service represents itself across communities and local government and as a nation. It's going to look much different. We're going to move the ball in a big way over the next few years. So I'm really excited about it. So thank y'all for coming on the show. Hey, good luck at the conference. What is it, next week, I guess, right? So be down in Florida where it's warm and warm and nice. We've had a winter where I am, so I'm excited to see a little heat. So, all right, guys, thank you all for coming on. And that is a wrap for this episode of the Fire Service Data and Tech Talk podcast. You can catch us every month. We have the first Saturday of the month. We air on all the fire engineering social media outlets. If you want to find us, you can find us. I've got a Facebook page for the Fire Service Data and Tech Talk podcast. I've got a Twitter handle. I always have to look and see what it is. It's Data and Tech Talk is the handle there. And you can always just shoot me a message on LinkedIn. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Love to hear your ideas. Love to hear, what you think of the show. So thanks for tuning in this month, and we'll see you next month. Everybody stay safe.